Hello, and welcome to the Healing Streams Reflection. The title of today's post is Pain, Trials, and the Art of Living for Today. Christian children are kidnapped. Loving missionaries die at the hands of terrorists. Wicked people get ahead. Business fail. Spouses cheated. Children rebel. And the cycle of life grinds on. The agony can be overwhelming. Why, God? Why am I suffering so? The problems of life are smothering me. That is the cry of thousands of people. Yes, even people who believe in God. So where do we turn when the pain and struggles of life batter us? And not many people, including Christians, rush to open their Bibles to the small book of Ecclesiastes. But Tommy Nelson does. And the truth he revealed there in his book, The Problem of Life with God, are reflection and remarkably helpful. Solomon, the author of Ecclesiastes and other Old Testament writings, was a man who had access to an abundance of wisdom, wealth, and pleasure. But near the end of his life, he surveyed it all and deemed that man, in and of himself, could not find meaning apart from God. But what about life with God? What about when we do invite Him into our lives? Why do the trials persist? Why the unfairness and the pain? Many so-called religious people will be quick to answer these questions by pointing fingers and saying, your problems stem from a lack of faith, or you must be living in sin. But Nelson's commentary on Ecclesiastes says otherwise. The idea that pain, disease, and heartache are not meant for God's people is total rubbish and a cruel notion to a person who is going through those things, says Nelson, a pastor of the 4,000-member Denton Bible Church in Denton, Texas. In the day of adversity, consider God made the one as well as the other. God created good and calamity. He is the author. He allows it to happen, and He has a purpose for it. And this is an issue humans have got to deal with. For instance, the fact that God may not keep them from having to bury a loved one after a surprise death. Solomon tells us trials are inevitable, and it gives us counsel to help us through those struggles. What is Solomon's counsel then? What is Solomon's counsel when the unthinkable happens? When your worst nightmare comes true? Solomon says, as difficult as it is, not to become bitter towards God. Instead, rest in Him, receive His comfort, be shaped during the difficult times. Ask great men why they are great, C.S. Nelson. It is not because of the blessings that happen to them. It is the tough times. Trials always have a beneficial purpose. They purify us and show us who we really are. They bring us to the end of our physical and intellectual rope Trials force us to trust Christ. The biblical character Job lost loved ones, health, and possessions. David found himself in a frustrating feud with senile King Saul. Joseph was beaten by his brothers, falsely accused by a seductress and imprisoned for years, though innocent. These were heart-wrenching trials, but God was shaping the character of these men while accomplishing his will. Each man was forced to lean not on his own understanding, as Proverbs 3:5 tells us, but to throw his arms up in surrender and say, I don't understand. It hurt deeply, but you are wise. You are mysterious, and I'll trust your sovereignty. Proverbs 3:5 declares, trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. Nelson says that through all our trials, we are to approach God with reverence, remembering that He is the Creator and we are the creation. Let your words be few. Make sure the difficult times don't change your conduct. Always do the right thing and let the chips fall where they may be. Solomon taught that even among God's people, there will be oppression, materialism, revelry, and the insatiable drive for popularity. Sometimes bad guys win and good guys suffer. Solomon laments that every person is eventually going to be hurt unjustly. How do Christians deal with that? Solomon reminds us that God is remarkably patient with people. He is working behind the scenes to accomplish things we cannot see. Don't be deceived when the wicked increase. Wealth will not ultimately satisfy. And in the end, the wicked will not prosper. Be humble, Solomon insists, because you simply don't understand what God is doing. Don't think of yourself as the smartest guy out there. Nelson quips, because there is outside chance you may not understand everything that is happening. We tend to think that if we can figure it out, it must be wrong. But Solomon says, you are not that smart. God has rigged life so that you and I have to trust Him even though it doesn't always make sense. And not only that, Solomon says that you and I must trust God in the valley of the shadow of death, but also that we should enjoy life along the way. 7 times in Ecclesiastes, he exhorts people to have a good time, even amid life problems. That strikes some religious people as licentiousness. But Nelson believes Solomon was around long enough and witnessed enough of life to know how God intended us to live. Unlike many, Nelson views Ecclesiastes as a book of hope, not pessimism. You've got to enjoy life right now, he says. And you can't let what you can't control destroy what you can enjoy. The fact that tomorrow might be a problem cannot take away your happiness now. Along with that advice, Nelson says Solomon encourages Christians to be bold in doing right, even if we are not rewarded, bold in living, even though we cannot control all things, and bold enough to enjoy life, although death will come. Solomon says, don't let the problems of life keep you from living. Yes, marriage has its problems, but it's a delight. When you have kids, there are problems there too, but children are a delight. You may have been hurt in a car wreck, but you don't let that stop you. Enjoy today, because you have no guarantee for tomorrow. Throughout the problem of life with God, Nelson dissects Ecclesiastes into 1 and 2 verse segment, followed by his own explanation of the text. His insights are eye-opening, humorous, and useful. He describes Ecclesiastes as Solomon's baccalaureate address on the art of life. He calls it a book for our generation, for believers and unbelievers. Solomon had a universal mindset. He was writing to every man. And one thing every man needs in this uncertain life is a source of unchanging, accurate wisdom. Solomon calls the Bible a good that will keep you in line, and a nail that will keep you secure, as Ecclesiastes chapter 12 verse 11 says, Nelson explains. Indeed, while leading his own congregation, Nelson simply teaches through the scripture, which he has studied exhaustively. He has advised hundreds of people during his 30 years in ministry, and 90% of the counsel he has out has dealt with morality and the problems of life. Solomon tells it like it really is. Nelson says, Ecclesiastes contains the reflections of a man who played the fool, who had it all and lost it all. He tells us the facts of life, and these facts instruct us to live even when faced with continual disappointment. Thanks for listening, and may the good Lord bless you.